Hi and welcome to IndigoStarfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be doing some quick little love notes from your twin flame. This is going to be a message cards only reading, and there are 4 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Emerald. Group 2 is the Purple Fluorite. Group 3 is the Desert Rose Selenite. And group 4 is the Fire Agate. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Emerald. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your twin flame want you to know from their higher self right now? Okay, and they say, you are the one for me. So this person is definitely in their feels right now, an energy of nostalgia, looking back on the past with a sense of regret if you are in separation with one another. They may be strategizing coming towards you, thinking about what would be required in order to make reunion possible. This is the energy of like the grass was not greener on the other side. So if they had wanted to keep their options open or made you feel like an option, this definitely can indicate that the spark has sort of worn off in another connection. And now that they're sitting in the reality of life with somebody other than you, perhaps, it's dawning on them that an incorrect choice was made, that their heart is really pulling them in another direction, or that maybe a connection they chose to return to or settle for is really just based on kind of superficial aspects. But in terms of like deep soul intimacy, that may be very much lacking in their present situation. If they are single, this can indicate that they're in kind of a period of introspection and reflection, looking over kind of the history of their experiences in love, and you stand out, you stand apart from even individuals that at one point in time they may have defined as like the love of their life. It feels that you've surpassed these people. You now hold kind of the reigning title champion for them in terms of the intensity and the nature and the duration of these feelings. If this is somebody that you are currently in contact with, then this can tie into that they are starting to really broaden their perspective as far as the deeper implications and longevity of the connection, which can be both very exciting and a bit overwhelming as well. They may be kind of triggered at this point in time or questioning, are they ready to settle down? Are they ready to take things to the next level? Especially if it's a connection that came very quickly. These feelings develop very suddenly. They may be in a little bit of a panic mode about that, the gravity and weight of this very profound realization. And they also say, thank you for always believing in me. So they're seeing you as somebody who's been very supportive of them, even if they had been showing you kind of a darker side of themselves, that they've been holding back or had been sort of fearful of commitment. You were always a cheerleader for them. And this maybe really stands out from other people that they dealt with in the past or even currently that have shown them conditional love, that when they displayed a part of themselves that was less than amicable or not cooperative or not just being fully engaged with the situation on the surface, like if this is, it almost was like for a lot of you, your twin flame may be prone to like brooding or going within. They may have a bit of moodiness, maybe a lot of pressure at work, things they're trying to work toward, and they may be really used to unsupportive partners who try to make themselves and their needs the center of attention, kind of put this person secondary in the past. This can be somebody who's used to sort of sacrificing for the good of another person. And contrary to that, they feel very much supported in their authenticity, supported in their healing journey, and supported by you emotionally and spiritually in terms of other things that are important to them that they are wanting to work toward in their life. This can also tie into kind of this element of these little sort of quirks or peculiarities about this individual, little things that they're interested in or hobbies that they have that other partners, past or present, may just kind of roll their eyes at or dismiss as just being like silly or foolish or childish. But in some way you may have really held the space and listened to this individual as kind of their eyes would light up and they would describe with enthusiasm something that really has meaning for them. It might even just be a pastime, but something that's a good way to kind of decompress, disconnect from their day-to-day responsibilities. Video games are coming up as an example of that. Somebody who may have a particular game that they're really into, or a game system, and you kind of like would listen to them go on and on about sort of whatever was happening in that particular level or stage, or like if a new edition of a game, a next version was coming out, and they would get really excited about this, even if it's something that you weren't interested in, you didn't know much about. As just an example, you're holding space for them, you're actively listening to them, you're encouraging them to do what really makes them feel rejuvenated, do what they need to do to kind of come back to center, come back to themselves, versus other people that may have just dismissed such things as silly or foolish or a waste of time. They may be used to very kind of like clingy and needy partners who don't allow this person just time and space in their own energy, are kind of like expecting them to overgive. This may have been the history of their romantic partners or even somebody that they're dealing with currently. And so again, this element of kind of contrast is coming up here, where they're really starting to see how you are very different in terms of not even things on a physical level, but just this level of acceptance that they may not be used to in other partnerships or even other, dynamics with family or friends. And they also say, I'm sorry for not appreciating you more. So definitely if you are in no contact with one another, this is somebody who is knowing what they had now that it's gone. A lot of nostalgia, bittersweet kind of memories, looking back on the past, wishing that they had extended to you the same level of acceptance and encouragement of things that you were interested in, things that you were passionate about, things that you found fun and exciting. In the same way, like that analogy to video games, that you may have sat there and, listened to this person sort of talk about their excitement about that. Some of you may have even like purchased a game for somebody, or, just in some way sort of endorse the furthering of some kind of like a hobby or an interest. And on the flip side of that, it feels that they're reflecting on, how they might have just kind of ignored things that were important to you, had refused to kind of accompany you to things that were important to you in the past. And it's these little details of how you've really held space for them that they are noticing is kind of like lacking in their current environment. And it's really sort of making them reflect on how they almost invested in the wrong thing, how they should have invested more time in you, in holding space for you and really showing up for you and supporting the things that bring you a sense of joy and contentment, even just things that, are not kind of like success-oriented goals, but are just for the sheer fun of it. It almost feels that you were very non-judgmental in that sense, as far as their hobbies, their interest in their activities, and they're starting to recognize how they really fell short, or they should have treated you better in the past. And this is something also, if this is somebody you're currently sort of dealing with, again, it's this idea of maybe an element of encouragement or acceptance that they're not used to in connections ever in their life, or recently, and it's something that they almost don't know how to express that gratitude towards you for that, just for these small details of accepting them fully for who they are, and really encouraging, again, things that bring them a sense of joy and contentment, even if they're frivolous things, just whatever sort of lights this person up inside. And it's these little qualities that make you very endearing to them. They also say, I miss your playful sense of humor. So this is kind of that, that frivolity, that playfulness, things that are done just for the sheer joy of it, the sheer fun of it, activities or little adventures that you would go on with one another, trips in the car, road trips. This is all coming up as these memories that they are looking back on, little inside jokes that you've shared, that other people maybe, or just a quirky sense of humor that they even have. It feels that you're somebody that would laugh at their jokes, would kind of like actively engage with them, would listen to them when they may be accustomed to other people kind of rolling their eyes, or dismissing them, or just not being on that same vibration of humor or frequency with them. And so it's an energy here of not just longing for you and kind of like missing you on a romantic level, but also missing the friendship that the two of you shared. They also say, I love you beyond bounds. So time and space has not diminished the feelings that they have for you. They may have tried to distract themselves, perhaps even move in another direction with somebody else. And no matter what they try, as far as like numbing, distracting, filling that space, filling that void within themselves and within their heart with other company, their thoughts keep coming back to you. You stand out above the rest, and it's something that it's almost the duration of these feelings, the intensity of these feelings, how they've only grown with time and any kind of distance or separation that exists between you. Or if you're still in contact with one another, it's almost like the more time that goes by, it's sort of like every day they find a new thing that they love about you, or the love intensifies to a point where they almost get to thinking like, I couldn't possibly love anyone any more than this. I couldn't possibly enjoy anybody's company more than in this moment. I couldn't possibly find anything more endearing. And then a short time later, it's like there's something else that sort of stands out above all of that. So it's almost like you keep mesmerizing and amazing this person, just you being you in your authenticity. It doesn't even feel like anything you're going out of your way to do. Just you being you is really affecting this person on a deep emotional level. And especially if you are in separation with one another, you being you and standing in your authenticity in your life, picking up the pieces, moving forward as best as you can, they can feel that vibrationally. And it just, again, it's filling them with this sense of awe that, as much as what they have tried to sort of stifle or suppress by way of feelings, only grows despite their best efforts. They also say, I want to again be the reason you laugh and smile. So more of that energy of like playfulness, a playful banter, inside jokes. This is like Six of Cups energy right here. Somebody who's definitely in their feels, definitely thinking about nostalgia, wanting to bring some light energy into the connection, wanting to return to you in a fresh vibration to counteract any sorrow, any mistakes that they made in the past. If they had chosen a third party to return to somebody, or had chosen not to invest in the connection with you, it almost feels that they may feel a little bit overwhelmed as far as where to start, how to move back to that place of innocence, or to rewild the connection in some manner. If this is somebody that you're currently dealing with, this idea, it's tying into this idea of like, you're the one for me. That might be a very exciting feeling, a novel revelation for them, but at the same time, it comes with a lot of overwhelm. It's a very intense realization. Maybe it's happened very quickly for them. And so they could have even just energetically pulled back somewhat. They might be, sort of sensing that you're noticing kind of like that the connection has cooled off a bit, or that they seem a bit distracted in some manner. There is this urge to kind of resume that closeness, the intimacy you once shared, to not allow the situation to sort of further deteriorate. So they don't feel, if it's someone you're currently dealing with, they don't feel at the point of wanting to like take off running, but they may have kind of like retreated into themselves, but again have this desire to move back towards you, to open up more, to try to resume the frequency and the vibration of cohesiveness that you've shared with each other before. And they also say, I'm seeking advice from close family and friends. So somebody you're currently dealing with could have a trusted confidant, maybe people that they're talking to, trying to figure out why they feel so intensely about you so quickly. If they're going through any kind of like a spiritual awakening as that has been activated through this connection with you, and maybe some psychic gifts are coming online, telepathy maybe starting to come about for them. And this ties into like doing research about these things, trying to sort of figure out what's happening to them, why they have been so affected by you and the connection so extremely. That same concept of research into these phenomena also applies if this is somebody that you're in separation from, a no contact situation, that again, they're sort of like seeking answers. What's the meaning of this connection? What's the nature of this connection? What's the purpose of this connection? Why have we intersected with one another in this lifetime? Why have I run from this? And how can I get back to that safe space and the proximity to you, and kind of resume the closeness that we once had before? And they also say, you are my heaven on earth. So that confirms that idea of, you feel like home, you feel like a safe space, somewhere where they are unequivocally accepted for who they are, no strings attached. Although you may have set ultimatums for them due to behavior that was low vibrational or even toxic in the past, there's a sense of them knowing that at the end of the day, if they make the effort, if they try, if they bring proof and evidence to you of change, that you would be most likely to at least hear them out. That in some way, shape, or form, there's still a granule of love that exists within you for them, despite everything that has happened. It's just something that they intuitively know. It's like a seed of potential, which keeps sort of pulling their attention back towards you. It's an anchoring point, as there may be other changes that are needing to take place in their life, or that they're realizing have maybe, things that were a wedge that have negatively impacted the connection up to this point in time. There's this energy of like reaching or wanting to raise their vibration, wanting to bring down this idea of reconciliation, this nostalgia, this sweetness, this innocence, wanting to find a way to ground this down into the material plane. You motivate them to change, to reach for more within themselves, to do and become better. And they also say, it is hard for me to trust people. So the idea of like a third party energy that was coming up, that can definitely apply to heartbreaks from the past that have made them very guarded as far as opening up about emotions. This may have been someone raised in an environment where conditional love is what was demonstrated to them. So almost this openness and acceptance for who they are, just as they are. It may be such a foreign sensation to them, such a foreign concept, that they've kind of retreated into themselves. Maybe they ran from you, self-sabotaged a bit, and it almost feels to be something like disconnecting from the situation before they themselves are abandoned or rejected in some manner. But this is somebody who's looking back on the happier times that you shared, missing that closeness, missing the sweetness between the two of you, holding your energy in a very positive light at this point in time. They may be going through like a dark night of the soul, or just a period where kind of their ordinary reality is very dull, and you almost represent this light to them, kind of the light in the darkness that is sort of guiding them or sitting with them, this kind of companion energy at this phase of their journey. And currently they're sitting in the energy of missing you, wanting to move back in your direction and kind of just step away from all the heaviness and the chaos that has ensued up to this point in time and sort of breathe fresh air back into the situation. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got J, A, S, M, V, I, H, N, and T. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick a cards as well as general energy readings that cover subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out, and I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the purple fluorite. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your twin flame want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, and they say, I dream of you often. So definitely a lot of energy being exchanged in the higher realms and the astral realm. If you are in no contact with one another, there is definitely a lot of meeting in those higher realms. It really ties into the idea of being connected at the soul level, and that being something that is very accessible to the two of you on a conscious level. And this may be something that in the past your twin flame had kind of dismissed this concept, but it almost feels like with the regularity and sort of the nature and intensity of these dreams, how real they feel, how much they can like feel your energy around them the next day, maybe even things that are said or discussed that sort of pop up in their reality in some way. It's giving almost like a prophetic nature to what is happening in these dream spaces, or kind of at times where they are going through some difficulties, and it's almost like etherically you almost just seem to know when they are in need of you, and that you are reaching out energetically speaking. They are taking note of this at a conscious level, and it is causing them to start to analyze and assess and really take into consideration the sort of otherness of this connection, the otherworldly qualities of this. They are able to distinguish a lot of these encounters with you as different from ordinary dreams, because it's not just something that is fleeting when they wake up, or something that is, maybe memorable for a few days and then it sort of escapes them. It's like these encounters or experiences with you in the astral plane are almost seared into their memory. It feels so real. It's the imagery, the words that are spoken, just the feelings, the visuals, the scenery, all of it. It's like these encoded messages almost in that dream space, to where it's happened so much there, it's become a pattern for them. And this may be a door that is starting to open up their curiosity, their research into concepts such as twin flames, soul connections, psychic phenomenon, just all of these different elements that ordinarily wouldn't be part of sort of their focus or their level of interest. But this is almost somebody who is at the point of like needing answers, needing explanations. It's too eerie, it's too constant, and it's too visceral to ignore at this point. And they also say you are more compassionate than I believe I deserve. So this person could have ghosted you, blocked you, breadcrumbed you, kind of been hot and cold, back and forth, in and out. And it almost feels that each time, even if there were ultimatums, set, even if you were sort of guarded with how quickly you were allowing them access back into your life, back into your heart, there's a sense of understanding, a sense of hearing them out, of being very non-judgmental, of very accepting of whatever version of themselves that they were operating in, to a certain extent. It feels like for a lot of you at a certain point, you really had to just put some walls up and some boundaries that may have been very difficult for them. It's bringing to mind the idea of like tough love, which may have been a very humbling experience. This may have been something that really frustrated them. They could have lashed out and said some very hurtful things in that capacity, almost like throwing a tantrum like a child in a sense. And with that, especially if this happened face to face, it's almost just like still seeing the love in your eyes directed towards them, despite how they were acting out or acting from a low vibrational manner, not in an energy of kind of like codependence or, just having sort of no standards or a lack of self-love. But this feels to be something of almost, you're able to see beyond the facade. You're able to see beyond the very wounded projections and to look in and see that wounded child within them, that fearful place within them. To be able to discern that whatever was being presented to you was very much a reaction, that you were still kind of like holding or anchoring in this energy of love, this vibration of love, allowing them to sort of expand and contract in their own ways to and from the vibrations of love and the vibrations of fear. And it's almost the sense of acceptance may have been something that was very shocking to them. This may have been something they were expecting, kind of a back and forth or a certain kind of pettiness that might have come from you as a result of what they had done or said. And then when that didn't occur, this almost sent them for a loop. It sent them spiraling. It sent them into this energy of kind of like, what have I done? Why have I treated this person this way? Why are they still looking at me with love in their eyes? Like, even if you're crying, that there's still love in your eyes as you're looking at them. So this is something that they might be having a difficult time at this point forgiving themselves, working through this kind of frustration. It may be only kind of making this lack mentality within them worse. This is tying in then with the element of dreams and kind of some interactions that are happening in that capacity as like a higher self attempt to sort of give them some healing energy so they can work their way through these things, ease up on themselves, forgive themselves for what has taken place in the past in order to step into a place of being able, willing, and ready to ask for forgiveness from you and maybe even others in their lives where they need to make amends as well. They also say hearing your name is a double-edged sword. So that, hearing your name out and about in public, or people that you know in common, saying your name, talking about you, it may be something that they try to almost go very stonewalled. They try to show no reaction, just be very emotionless in that capacity. This doesn't feel like anyone who's engaged in gossip, slander, or pettiness. They almost just might dismiss it, like, I don't want to hear about it, I don't want to talk about that person. They could even get a little bit defensive about it, but behind closed doors, kind of like internally within themselves, it's almost like they flinch and yet are deeply kind of like drawn to you. It's like this gooey sort of energy where they're wanting to be pulled towards you, and a protectiveness that also sort of flares up within them that might lead to a bit of sort of agitation if others are not speaking kindly about you or the connection, or even just in a kind of a matter-of-fact way you come up in conversation. They may be very quick to sort of shut that down, so as not to sort of get too deep into any territory where it might reveal these feelings that they still harbor for you, and that they're still in the process of trying to really puzzle their way through. They also say, I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to face you. So this could definitely be somebody who has run or blocked you or ghosted on at least one occasion. And it feels like it's very difficult for them to come towards you in a genuine energy of apology. It's almost, this may be somebody with kind of like a hot temper, or they're prone to tantrums in a sense, and they burn a lot of bridges in their life, and they may be really used to people sort of slamming the door on them in the aftermath of these sort of outbursts on their part. And it's something where they feel very humbled by the fact that not that you don't have standards, not that you just let them in with no kind of consequence, but that there's an openness that they sense with your energy of really truly wanting to hear their explanation, truly listening, and not just dismissing whatever they present as merely an excuse. Even if it's an excuse, you're able to sort of scratch beneath the surface of that, and again recognize that kind of wounded child within them. And it's something where they're almost feeling that you are more loving, more giving, stronger than they are in so many ways, because of this deep sense of like empathy that you have, and a willingness to hold space for them to be vulnerable at the times when kind of their temperature has cooled down, or they've had time to reflect. They felt the distance, they felt the coldness of separation between the two of you, and especially for those where this is kind of a lot of back and forth. Each time they come, it's more back to you. It's more and more difficult for them to face you. It's more and more difficult for them to say they are sorry, because it's kind of just, it's repeating too many times. There's too much of like the same behavior over and over again. So that again is tying into this element of a lot of you maybe needing to put up some more powerful boundaries against them. Maybe you already have done this, and it's just an energy of them really being in self-reflection and kind of wondering why they have treated you this way, why they have reacted this way, why they keep self-sabotaging, why they don't just kind of open up and let you know that they're scared, that they're wounded, they're afraid of getting hurt by love again, they're afraid of commitment. It's a sense of understanding and feeling that you're very much a safe space, and that it would be okay to talk these things through, but they're very unwilling, it feels like, to be completely vulnerable and exposed, and so they just lean into the opposite polarity, which is kind of like reactiveness. They also say, I'm learning to heal and soothe myself. So they may be getting help, maybe for some anger issues, some codependency issues, avoidant attachment style issues, anything where, kind of this idea of like the hot and cold energy, where they have some kind of an outburst, the intensity of the intimacy and the times you're spending with one another, energetically speaking, it gets to be too much, and they kind of run or push you away, or do something to sort of undermine or topple the connection for a period of time. And then it's almost like they're moving out into this wasteland away from you, but longing for your energy all the same. And they may have done several cycles of this, of kind of wandering in that wasteland, only to sort of come crawling back at a certain point in time, to try and just sort of slide right into your life again, rejuvenate themselves, nourish themselves within the light of this connection, only to, sort of get overwhelmed and run again. And so rather than sort of looking to you as the person who's going to heal them, who's going to fix them, who's going to solve those problems or sustain them during these occurrences of where they've put themselves at a loss through their action to move away from love rather than to it, to lean into the polarity of fear rather than to fight or resist that in some manner. This is definitely somebody who's trying to figure out their own motivations in a period of introspection, maybe with this idea even of like research they're doing in conjunction with the dreams and the energetic connection. This can tie into some self-help. This doesn't really feel like anyone who, especially with that idea of like hearing your name's a double-edged sword, and that they have kind of a tendency to stonewall and show no reaction. This doesn't feel like somebody who'd be going to a therapist most likely, or a counselor. It doesn't feel like they're talking to anyone about this or confiding in anyone. They're trying to just kind of go this road alone, and it's like doing it the hard way in a sense. But there's this recognition within them that something needs to shift and change within themselves. And they also say, I miss hearing you say my name. So you guys may have like a very similar name, or names that just maybe rhyme or sound really good together. And it's bringing to mind the idea of like they want you to take their last name, or they want to take your last name. These are, thoughts about like forever with you, but at the state that they are at this particular point in time, there's still so much wounding. They can't almost muster the courage to step up and be that forever person that you need them to be. They're still kind of like dealing with a lot of unhealed wounds and shadows within, things that are deeply triggered by the intensity of the connection, by the compassion that you show, by the love that you exude. But there is a desire for conversation, to exchange with one another, to speak to one another again. So if it's a no contact situation, they are hoping to be able to come out from the cold, or come back in from out the cold eventually. But it feels like they may even realize, perhaps because you set up some, heavier boundaries or ultimatums, or they're just at the point in their journey of realizing they have to do some fixing within themselves before they are able to bring that energy of repair to the situation with you. And they also say, I'm hiding my true feelings for you. Yeah, so that is more of that energy of that stonewalling, trying not to reveal that they still care, that they still love you, they still think about you, they still miss you, secretly desiring you, and from the outside presenting almost a very repellent kind of vibration. Not allowing themselves to talk about the connection with other people, not, kind of doing everything that they can to almost present this image of they're happier with their sights set elsewhere, that, the time has made the feelings expire, and they're very content with how the situation is. But that's, it's a strong mask, it's a facade. Inside, there's this deep sense of mourning almost for this connection, which again ties into the element of almost the necessity of these dream visits between the two of you. Their pride and ego may just be holding them in a very tight grip, and it is only when that ego mind is kind of on sleep mode, or resting, not actively kind of like seeking out and thwarting this closeness and this intimacy, this energy exchange between you. Only then is it possible for you to almost infiltrate the barricades of the ego, and the two of you are then able to exchange and collude and just share that very sacred and loving space with one another. They also say, I don't want anyone else but you. So if your twin flame was or is in a third party situation, it feels that that may have gone really stale. There may be a lot of conflict and chaos going on in that situation, as it is perhaps eroding. It's past its expiration date. It's getting ready to sort of fall away from their world, from their reality. It feels like your twin flame might be in an energy of just being very difficult to be around at this point in time, kind of suffering in silence and very moody. They have their sights set on you, but there's still a lot of growth that they need to do within themselves in order to be able to bring something to you that creates measurable change in the circumstance. And they also say, I'll never forget the time we spent together. So a lot of nostalgia, looking back over the past, and it feels to be a safe space. It's like a home base for them when times were simpler, before their own shadows got in the way. And it's something that they're almost looking at from a distance, and really sort of, especially after they encounter you in a dream space, it almost like triggers this flood of memories that are urging them to kind of continue with this exploration, this healing, and this growth within themselves, so that they don't just have to stand from afar and kind of be very reactive or very defensive when things, even if there's nobody that's bringing you up. It even feels like synchronicities and signs and reminders, memories, just all of these things. They may be in a point of trying to fight those things off, push them away, but deep down inside there is this longing to almost return home to you. Strategy that may be employed at this point in time, or just a questioning, almost like a prayer for help. How do they sort of get out from the grip of their own ego? It feels like someone who's starting to recognize just how much they've been standing in their own way and sort of thwarting themselves, which feels to be an important step toward self-liberation, which may ultimately kind of liberate the two of you from whatever the frequency was previously and whatever the situation is between you now. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got F, Y, P, N, J, A, R, X, L, and M. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a-cards and general energy readings related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Desert Rose Selenite. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see what is your twin flame wants you to know right now. Okay, and they say the grass was never greener. So if they had made you feel like an option, second best, had told you they weren't what they were looking, you weren't what they were looking for, they didn't have feelings for you, the feelings had subsided, had fallen away or extinguished. They wanted to open their options, keep the options open, remain very unattached, and to see what else is out there, explore, find, experiment, whatever that might have looked like or sounded like. There is a sense of all roads have led back to the reality that their heart belongs to you, that there's a connectedness that they feel with you and that they've experienced with you, that they've not been able to replicate in other situations. They've not been able to even come close to that. And it feels to be something beyond just physical attraction. This is like spiritual attraction. This is soul attraction. This is emotional attraction. It's a sense of serenity, and yet at the same time possibility and excitement. Like they could take on the world even on their worst day. And it's an electricity that is incomparable to even the most intense or intimate connections that they've had with other people. It feels like something where your twin flame has needed to perhaps experience other connections, people that they may have idealized or that may have fit more into their idea of the perfect partner in a 3D sense, only to find that since their eyes have been opened through what they have experienced with you, that nothing else will suffice, nothing else will satisfy them in quite the same way as the connection with you has. They also say, I miss your playful sense of humor. So they're missing the friendship as well. Kind of in all ways, you are the full package. You're more than a 10. You are an 11 in this person's book. You are infinity. You are everything that they could want in a partner. And there's a sense of regret at them not doing more to kind of keep the partnership intact, doing more to invest with you. This sort of like a curiosity, maybe even peer pressure that may have been a factor in some way, a sense of like a fear of missing out that caused them to detach from you or to not commit or to be hesitant or uncertain, to want to keep those options open or look in another direction. This hasn't turned out as they had hoped that it would. They might have been with people that sort of fulfilled one or two of these kind of categories, but you really were the full picture. You were the full deck for this person, and it's been a humbling experience to almost see that they had this treasure in terms of the dynamic, in terms of the experience with you, what you had together, what was still as yet to be experienced, what could have grown from the situation, and they feel very foolish for having tossed that aside or kind of like left you behind in the pursuit of something greater. And there's a sense of almost that sense of something greater does not exist. that the greatest, the most sort of logical choice, the only choice on a spiritual and soul level is you. This is giving me the vibration of somebody who really is seeing that you're the one, and it has taken them wandering, straying very far from that place of knowing to be able to discover this truth for themselves. It feels like a necessary part of this journey, however, that they really would not have been able to appreciate or understand the depth and nature of the connection if they hadn't created or taken advantage of some kind of distance between the two of you, that they needed space in their own energy in order to come to this realization very organically and in their own way. And they also say, I miss you and all your quirks. Yeah, so just everything about you. You're a very unique individual, very irreplaceable, something that they have not even come close to matching or replicating in other sort of connections. If they haven't even been with anybody other than you, and they're just, maybe they were wanting to just remain single, focus on other things, on school, on work, there's a sense of reflection as well, kind of a comparison that's going on at this point between you and other experiences that they've had of love and romance. And again, they may be making kind of a list of reasons why they should return to you, why they should make the effort, why this situation is something that is worth their while in many ways in a long-term sense to invest in. Something very unique and almost innocent about you. It fulfills their inner child. They feel very safe in your presence, very safe to be seen, safe to be themselves. You encourage them to sort of take down their mask and just step out very authentically. A version of them that maybe not many people in romantic relationships have seen, or a version of them that typically is sort of rejected, or may have faced conditional love in the past, and so they've really stuffed that down. But it's almost like you call this person out from hiding in many ways, which could have brought forth a sense of being vulnerable as well, that caused them to run or kind of come up with excuses, or just to seek some kind of otherness elsewhere, only to find that, again, all roads lead back to you. And they also say, I'm sorry for not appreciating you more. So they definitely know what they have now that it's gone, now that some distance has been created. There's a sense of almost that they're moping at this point in time, sort of feeling very foolish, feeling very, very blinded to the reality and the treasure and kind of the gift and blessing of this connection when it was right in front of them. People or things or avenues that they had pursued, it feels like almost turned into dead ends in a sense, or just were kind of lackluster. It wasn't all it was kind of made out to be. It was sort of these all that glitters are not gold scenarios, and they feel very impoverished at this point in time. Also, there's kind of an energy of panic here, wanting to try and find a way to course correct to you out of a fear that someone else will come and take their place. Someone else will appreciate you, will not let you go, versus the approach your twin flame may have taken up to this point in time, which is to let the connection pass them by or to outright reject you in the past. And they also say, I'm sorry I put others so ahead of you. So that can confirm this idea of grass not being greener on the other side, someone who wanted to keep their options open, maybe made you feel like an option. If there were third-party energies involved in the situation, meddling friends, family, people who didn't approve of the connection, didn't understand the connection, had a particular type of person that they thought would be more of an ideal candidate or for partnership for your twin flame, and if they had sort of leaned into these people's opinions, had not wanted to deviate from what was acceptable, not wanting to be judged in a certain manner by choosing to follow their heart in the direction of you in the connection, or again, just like picking the wrong person, investing in the wrong thing. There's, this a lot of regret as far as that's concerned, that whatever their investment was, whatever gamble they made, whatever sort of maneuver happened away from the connection, whatever choice was made, it feels to them at this point like they made the wrong choice. They've cheated themselves ultimately in the end out of a very beautiful experience that fulfills so many aspects and layers of them that they may have not even known were kind of like requisites for them. And now that they've experienced this with you, and they have maybe gone out and experienced other people, and just nobody comes close to kind of fulfilling all of these needs, that now that they have experienced it, these things have become needs for them. They're kind of on this hunger quest at this point in time. Searching around for someone that can replace you adequately, and there are no sort of suitable or appropriate candidates that they are able to find, which brings them back to the reality that you are irreplaceable and one of a kind. And they also say, you have always inspired me. So they could be watching you from afar, and recognizing, witnessing some kind of glow up within you, seeing you from fresh eyes, which is really inspiring them to try and look around and see what do they need to change, what needs to be sort of improved upon or let go of, in order to be in a vibration and in an environment and in a condition to be able to have something measurable and worthy of you to offer by way of reconciliation. This can also be inspiration for them to disconnect from situations which have kind of outlived their purpose. Maybe that is friendship dynamics, other romantic connections, maybe a certain sort of like a toxic dynamic with family members, people that were meddlesome, helicopter parents, and people who were just very much in your twin flame's business and giving their opinion, putting their 2 cents in where it wasn't necessarily warranted or asked for or required or helpful, and it's an inspiration toward improving themselves, choosing better for themselves, raising their vibration. It feels very much forward motivated, a desire to move closer to you quickly and to try and at least make the effort to repair the situation, to at least see if the pieces can be picked up if it's not too late. They also say, I don't want anyone else but you. So again, it's, the grass was not greener. They have not been able to replace you. Nobody has been able to come close to checking off all those boxes for them. It feels like they're, most likely in kind of like a single state right now. If they had been dating, they're just kind of in their own energy at this point in time, looking towards you, looking back over memories, maybe watching you from afar and figuring out how can I get back in the door? How can I turn this situation around? If they do happen to be still in a third party connection, it feels that those two people are most likely sleeping in separate rooms. That there's very little going on in that connection other than just sort of cordial surface level interactions, just whatever is necessary by way of kind of like common goals that they have. If there are kids that they share in common with somebody, it's all about just dealing with the kids. There's very little intimacy or conversation about anything else. It feels like an energy of just two people doing their own thing very silently, very oblivious to one another, very uncaring towards one another. And it's almost, this is somebody it's tying with the idea of, you have always inspired me. They're kind of planning their escape from some kind of an environment, some kind of a situation, knowing that they need to come towards you with open arms, without any strings attached, in order to be able to resurrect this connection. But at this point in time, it's almost just they're sitting in the bed that they have made, and it does not feel very comfortable. And they also say, I get excited every time I see you. So that can be that confirmation of watching you on social media, very inspired by a glow up, seeing you with fresh eyes. You look good. You're projecting a really good aura, a really good attitude. You're enjoying your life. You're living your life to the fullest. You've picked up the pieces from this situation as best as you can. And it's something that is it's very much impressing your twin flame. They're wanting to join you at that vibration, at that frequency. They're wanting to start to clean up their life, fix whatever has been broken within them that caused them to not be able to see and appreciate the love that they were seeking that was right in front of them the whole time. This can also tie into kind of like secret admirer. They're your biggest fan. If you have social media presence, maybe like a platform, for example, this is definitely somebody who's liking every video, most likely like pretty quickly right away. They're, looking at all the photos, maybe even like fake accounts in order to be able to sort of watch you, comment, give that little heart emoji to things without you being able to tell that it's them. They don't necessarily feel able or ready to come out of hiding, especially if there is a third-party connection, that anonymity may be necessary at this point, not wanting to involve you in any kind of drama, and almost a sense of that you wouldn't tolerate it at the vibration you're at the place you're at in your life, and what has happened between the two of you historically, that they need to come open and available or just remain at a distance, and yet they can't stop watching you. They can't stop being very attentive to you, very curious about what's going on with you, almost to kind of like mimic or in some way try to match or as a template of how they need to raise their vibration, what they need to cultivate in their lives and within themselves to be able to meet you at your frequency and hopefully kind of get a foot back in the door again to rebuild some trust in the situation. They also say, I'm so happy when I am around you. So again, this idea of you represent a deep sense of joy for them, a deep sense of contentment, the way in which they feel very comfortable to be themselves, very comfortable in your presence, very seen, very accepted, very free, even in kind of the containment system of the relationship. This is something that they've not experienced in other connections. It's a revelation that you are this full package at this point in time. It's a relief that they found what they were looking for, but then also the sense of like a sinking feeling because they left that behind several steps ago. So a bit of frustration at this point in time as far as like how to resume the lighter energies between you, how to sort of course correct in this situation, bring forth an apology, display measured change in such a way that you would entertain them in your life again. And this is definitely an energy here of if they were able to sort of get back in your good graces again, if you would be open and receptive to them, they wouldn't let you go a second time. Or maybe it's been kind of a back and forth, but and there have been several occasions where they've let you go in the pursuit of something else, or just to disconnect all in general. But it feels like they've turned some kind of corner substantially with themselves. Something has happened during this last kind of phase of separation that has really sent a very clear message to them. Any ways that they were in denial or were very blind to this reality, that on so many levels you are the perfect match for them, that these illusions have been cast away, and now they are sitting in the stark reality of what they've created for themselves, and trying to find a way back to you. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, and we've got C, T, Q, Y, N, G, D, and I. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick cards and general energy readings related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 4. You chose the Fire Agate. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your twin flame want you to know right now from their higher self? Okay, and they say, I love you. So that's a beautiful message to start with. If this is somebody you've been in a long-term separation from, or even something that's short-term, they still hold a lot of love for you. Their feelings have not changed as much as they may have tried to deny those or stuff and suppress. Whatever the nature of your connection has been like, the ups and downs you've faced, anything that they may have said in kind of the heat of anger or impulsively, at their core, the truth at the end of the day is this love that they feel for you. It's something which cannot be shattered. It cannot be diminished. It cannot be broken. It's something, the nature and intensity of it and the way it almost like changes and moves with this person. It changes with the seasons almost, or if it's a long-term no contact situation, it's a love that has evolved over the years. It's a love that there have been times where it almost feels to go kind of dormant or quiet, only to sort of revive itself, to flare up in a nature of intensity that is almost more than what was experienced or understood or felt before, which could be quite confusing, again, especially if that's like a no contact or a long-term no contact situation between you. It's got this person, it's got your twin flame wondering, like, why are these feelings still so strong? Why does it almost feel like more love the more time that passes? It's beyond the point of just neediness. It's like this deep core love, something that has been awakened within them, that has not been able to go back to sleep. It has not been able to be shut off. They, may have tried to distract themselves, may have pushed or stuffed away these feelings, but at the end of the day, they keep coming back to that reality that they love you, and it's just as complicated and as simple as that. They also say, I'm working on some hard core issues. So that feels to be very literal, like some difficult core wounds within themselves. Mother wounds could be coming up, or just parental wounds in general. Fears of abandonment may be coming up. Any kind of like generational patterns, addictions could be a factor to any number of things. And all of this, it feels like a very arduous uphill battle that they are working toward, sort of moving out of a lack mentality into an abundance mentality, learning to forgive themselves, learning to self-soothe and to heal and to grow, and to move beyond the version of themselves that maybe other people were most comfortable with, kind of a wounded version of them that people in their environment endorsed or expected them to step up as, and kind of a bit of people pleasing, codependency, things of that nature, to where what they're dealing with, it feels like they may have made some surface level changes and now they're in the deep dive. For some, it may be tower moments that have sort of catapulted them into this state where they have no choice but to just sit and really look in the mirror. For others, it feels that they've deliberately started to make this journey to their own personal underworld. And this feels to be motivated by shadow work you've recently been doing. Maybe a very serious kind of period of checking yourself, like a reckoning with yourself, an honest look at yourself and kind of tendencies, patterns, trends in your life, maybe related to the situation, perhaps unrelated, that are needing to be addressed and released and healed in order for you to step more into your own personal abundance in a variety of ways. It feels like because of the nature of the connection, almost the work that you do on yourself, it sends out an energetic shockwave to your twin that sort of operates kind of like a neon sign. It points the way, kind of like healing available here, with this arrow that points deeply within themselves. And while they may have spent some time trying to ignore that, looking in the other direction, it feels like for a lot of you, they're really starting to address these things. Maybe it's just baby steps. Maybe it's even just opening up to the possibility that it's not everybody else to blame, but something within themselves which needs to change. And further, that they are capable of doing that. For a lot of these people, they could have really recognized that there were some flaws within them. There were some things that, were very toxic or very wounded, very unhealed, but they may have felt very overwhelmed by all of that, that these were long-term issues, childhood issues. They didn't know how to get into that core. They didn't know how to get into that root. They didn't know where to begin. They may be very disconnected from their emotional body, and it's just kind of these learned coping mechanisms that there's a desire and a knowledge that there's need for change, but maybe just at a loss of precisely how to do that. So there could even be this energy of that they're watching you from afar. They've watched some kind of glow up. They're trying to mimic you energetically speaking if you've been very public about changes you've made in your life, maybe as a result even of like a spiritual awakening, for example. This can be something where they're observing that from afar. They're kind of taking notes about the things that you're talking about, things that you're doing, things that you're exploring, even if it's unrelated to kind of these core issues within them. It's almost like you stepping more deeply into your authenticity is kind of a cheerleader for them to really dive in, to dig in and start to chip away, or seek to understand kind of the nature of their own mechanics, kind of what makes them tick, and why have they kind of been getting in their own way, or allowing these kind of unhealed shadows to sabotage happiness for so long. They also say you are the one for me. So that's a beautiful follow-up to the idea of I love you, feelings that keep intensifying over time. And despite all kind of efforts to silence these things, extinguish these things, you are heavily on their mind. They can't escape this connection as much as they have tried in the past. They feel to be entering into this energy of surrender, though, starting to work on some of those core issues, starting to really just accept how perpetual this bond is between the two of you. And especially in this flow state, in the way that it changes, it feels that you've reached a point in the connection where there are almost these comfortable silences in the energy with you. So for a lot of you with group 4, this may be like long-term separation, long-term no contact, where that intensity, that kind of clinging, or almost like a neediness, a hunger for one another in sort of those initial stages of separation, you've both acclimated to that. It's not as much of a fixation anymore. There's a lot more allowance with that, and it feels like it's this beautiful flow where they, have done a lot of this sort of surrendering work within themselves. They feel very prepared to move back in your direction, but also are starting to really address, or have made some progress, substantial work for them, or even just in general. This might legitimately be substantial work. This could be somebody who's, getting help for addiction, someone who's going to therapy, somebody who's investing in self-help, learning tools and coping mechanisms, kind of disconnecting from toxic situations and things, and people that kind of interfere with their high vibration and living their healthiest and best life. And it feels to be someone who's really, for a lot of you, starting to take ownership, or has taken steps to take ownership of their life, their reality, and kind of changing the things that they have the ability to change, releasing the things that merely kind of keep them stifled or stuck or stagnant in a sense. So it's a lot of like growth process, and it's a peaceful energy right here. In a sense, they're at peace with kind of the time, or the silence that is allowed energetically for them to start to really toil away at some of these aspects within themselves. And it almost reaches the point now that when there's kind of this resurgence in the energy, it's like this overwhelm, or this joy of like seeing an old friend for the first time in a long time, where they may have been actively really fighting off this energy. It's almost welcome to feel you, to get signs and synchronicities about you, that it's something that they've moved into a place of acceptance about. They also say we share a telepathic bond. So they may be very conscious of this, kind of sending you, little love notes, little love thoughts, maybe even, songs or phrases, or just loving vibrations across the ether, across kind of time and space. For a lot of you, this can also be something where, this connection kick-started like a spiritual awakening, something that the nature and intensity of that required both of you to go into separation, to walk your separate paths, to come to that place of truth and understanding and ascension on your own in a very organic manner, without kind of being influenced by each other in a direct sense, or distracted by the overt kind of like one-on-one connection with one another. And it feels to be something that, just as you may have discovered the idea of telepathy, you've experienced it, you've experimented with it, they're in that same boat as well. This is something that they are open to, this concept. They've experienced it with you. It feels very visceral. It feels like almost it helps them kind of be comfortable in this period of silence, to enjoy this silence a bit, because there's this direct line from your hearts to one another, that you're very much companions with one another through this sort of stage of this journey. But there's a lot of energy here of just allowing, understanding on both parts, from a higher self level and a conscious level for a lot of you, that there's work that needs to be done individually, and it's that work within that creates the bridge to change between the two of you in a material sense in the future. They also say you deserved so much more than I could give you at the time. So again, somebody who's really starting to take ownership for themselves, how they've shown up in this connection in the past, maybe tendencies to self-sabotage or be very fearful of commitment, kind of an in and out energy. And, you know, they're taking ownership of that. They may have really projected blame or responsibility onto you exclusively, accusing you of coming on too strong, or, you know, just like denying or stuffing or suppressing feelings, or just completely running, ghosting, and blocking with no explanation. And it's something that they're very much ashamed of that, but it feels like they're also working on self-forgiveness, not so much weighted down as may have been the case at a period of time, with this sort of sense of regret of how they treated you, how this was not of the most highest, you know, high vibration. There might have been sort of karmic repercussions for that as well. Other people in their lives who could have been very careless with their feelings, maybe just sort of dumped them or ditched them with no kind of explanation, just totally shut down the lines of communication and went totally radio silence. Something where the tables have been turned in a certain manner, where they have actually been able to experience and walk in your shoes in some capacity, which has really cemented the lesson home to them of what that experience must have felt like. And it's motivating them to, you know, return to you with an apology, but in the energy of having action steps of like change they have made within themselves, something of their character, of their value and the life that they're living, that they want to build before they present themselves to you again. They also say I often revisit our conversations and smile. So they're definitely in their head about this connection a lot, thinking back on the good times you shared, very nostalgic. Some of them may have emails, text messages, direct messages saved somewhere, even if they have kind of blocked you on social media, for example, changed their contact information. It feels like for a lot of you, this is almost like a file on a computer, or somewhere in their phone, maybe in like their notes, or just a special folder that they've sort of saved all of these things, or maybe just like key kind of like special things that were sent back and forth between one another. And it's a sense of nearing proximity to your energy, while at this point there's almost this necessity of distance between the two of you. And this also speaks to this desire to open these lines of communication again, to bring forth some kind of truth, some kind of an apology, and some kind of demonstration of the changes that they have made. They also say, I'm hiding my true feelings for you. So more of that energy of comfortable in the silence at this point in time. This feels like somebody that is not going to be content with silence forever, but at this moment it feels very prudent. They may be in the middle of working through some issues that have really interfered and kind of hindered their quality of life for a long time. Like, to come back at this point in time, they wouldn't have completed whatever this process is. Maybe it's some kind of like treatment program, or some kind of therapy, some kind of like deep self-healing work, shamanic work, just like alternative medicine, any kind of things to really sort of get to the root of sort of their motivations in the past, the wounded part of themselves that thwarted this situation and maybe many other opportunities for contentment for them throughout their lives, wanting to release a version of themselves and allow kind of a better version to rise up from that place. And so it just feels that silence is kind of the best approach at this point, but definitely somebody who's, taking full advantage of that telepathic bond, that open line of communication in the etheric sense. They're not shy about using that telephone line to you. And it feels like a very chattery kind of energy, like there might be a lot that's exchanged back and forth in that capacity. a lot of meeting up in dreams, a lot of this feels like somebody who's almost like praying for you every night when they go to bed, or at regular intervals throughout the day, maybe even kind of every time the clock strikes 11:11, they're sending you a loving thought. It's somebody who feels to have really grown and advanced from the genesis of kind of when you were first dealing with them. And they also say, I blame others instead of taking responsibility. So that might be a key component that they're working on at this point. Self-forgiveness and really like looking in the mirror. Hardcore issues of facing for the first time, maybe, how they have actually played a bigger role in kind of certain disadvantages that they've had, situations that have fallen apart. They've kind of been the maker of their own misery in a lot of ways, and that this might be a very humbling experience. It's very hard to kind of move out of that energy of projection into, acceptance of responsibility. They may have been raised in an environment where they were made to feel they could do no wrong. Everybody else was the problem. They were, perfect just as they were, and something that was kind of like this standard that they just started making others kind of adhere to. This sense of like an overinflated ego, a false perfectionism that has needed to be sort of chipped away at or eroded in some capacity, and that may have taken place through divine intervention. They definitely could be at a place in their life where they have no choice but to work at these things. That they can't continue on in the same kind of mechanism of how they've been maneuvering through their life. And rather than being very kind of like hopeless, stuck, or resistant, for a lot of you, it feels like they have actually started to do the work. They are leaning into the energy of change and kind of like remaking themselves into a better version. They also say, I made the wrong choice. So definitely another encouragement there that they are sorry, even if they are not at the point of feeling ready to bring that forth to you. Knowing that they should have invested more in this connection, knowing, now that there has been this time and distance, just how much you mean to them. A choice to sort of stuff or deny or even hide their feelings in the past, run from the intensity of this connection, especially if that was motivated by some kind of spiritual awakening. It almost feels like a very lonely road for them, something that your higher selves have both kind of agreed upon this strategy in a very sort of broad and overarching sense. But there's just a sense of feeling very alone on this journey at times, maybe at this particular point in time, which is why they could be leaning into this nostalgia, leaning heavily onto that telepathy, making sure that you sense them around you, that you know that they're still there and that they love you, as kind of this counterweight to a feeling of loneliness that they have as they're kind of going into their own sort of personal underworld and dealing with those core issues at present. A sense of wishing that you could be walking this journey hand in hand, or that you should be further along in this journey up to this point than you are. So this may have been someone that for a long time was just kind of continuing to project blame, continuing to numb, continuing to suppress, continuing to deny. But they are at a point now where something has shifted or been shifted for them, to where their approach to themselves, to their life in general, and to what the future holds for themselves, their life in general, and also this connection has shifted into a new direction. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got T, A, S, E, H, F, R, C, K, M, X, and W. So, those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there consists of pick-a-cards and general energy check-ins related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.